Okay, so you get multiple order blocks on your chart. Cool, but then you're stuck with the decision on which one to trade. Now, this is actually a very important decision. Do you trade this order block? Yeah, you could, but it turns out it was too weak and price broke right through it. Not good. Well, maybe you trade the lowest order block. That would make sense. Since it's the lowest, that means it has to be the strongest, right? You sure about that? This is the ultimate dilemma multiple traders face every single day. And if you don't know how to pick the correct one, you can lose a lot of money. I am never gonna financially recover from this. Well, I wanted to find a way to pinpoint the best order block possible, to be able to find the order block that had the best probability of working. To do this, I had to do a lot of research, a lot of backtesting, and I mean a lot of analysis. That's when I discovered what I'm going to call the inducement strategy. This will instantly identify which order block to choose that gives you the highest probability of it working. So how do we find the strongest order block? Well, whenever a chart is moving in a clear direction, in this case bullish, it will make higher highs and higher lows. Pretty simple. A lot of the time there will be multiple zones to buy from. In this example, we have two different zones to choose from. We have what I'm going to call the inducement zone, and we have our true zone. Now, if we look up the definition of inducement, it'll tell us that it means a thing that persuades or influences someone to do something. In other words, a trap. Now, there are multiple ways to look at this, but it's basically an area that looks good for an opportunity to the normal person, but in reality, it's a weak zone that won't hold. So oftentimes, price will come back down to this zone and induce traders into thinking it's a strong zone to enter in, but what often happens is price will trick traders to enter into these inducement zones, when in reality, it's not a strong zone at all, giving all the traders that entered into it a big old fat L. Oh. But what really ends up happening is price goes past this inducement zone and goes into the true zone, which is actually strong enough to hold, and price moves up from here. Now, you might be thinking, how do we know which zone is the inducement zone? Well, that comes down to two things: liquidity and imbalance. An imbalance is simply an area on the chart that hasn't been tested. So in this example, we have an imbalance right here, right below this lower zone, which price is naturally going to want to test again. If price did something like this, sure, now this zone would be good to trade off of because we don't have an imbalance below this lower zone. But that didn't happen. We do have an imbalance, which price will naturally want to test where there's liquidity. So think of it like this. There are going to be stop losses right here from the buyers who want to enter in this zone. There will also be sell stops from sellers who are looking for a breakout trade right here. Then there will be a significant amount of orders in this zone from institutions. We know this is an institutional zone because the move started from this zone, and we all know prices moved by big institutions, not retail trade. Okay, that stupid line stuff. Let's go to what you really want to see. Let's go to what actually is going to make you money. Let's go to a real life example. That's what I'm talking about. That's why he's the MVP. That's why he's the GOAT. But let me show you some trading profits real quick. I made a video the other month saying I was going to try to use Hanker Trade's copy trading feature, where you can copy professional analysts by simply clicking a button. Now, when they first asked me to test this, I was a little skeptical at first. I'm not going to lie, but I decided I wanted to test it out for myself. What I did was click this top performing section, so I only saw the top performing analysts. I then saw this guy that had an 86% win rate, so I decided to test him out. I tested this by depositing around $50,000 a month ago. That $50,000 is now $160,000 just from clicking a follow button. Pretty insane. I'll proceed to update you guys on Instagram on how the copy trading is doing. Your face filters on Instagram today. This is my favorite one so far. Nice job, team. But in the meantime, if you want to test the copy trading feature too, I'll leave a link in the description so you can check it out. Okay, let's go back to the video to a real life example using the strategy I just taught you. So here on this chart, we have a simple uptrend. We have higher highs and higher lows. During this uptrend, the chart made multiple zones we could potentially buy from. We have one demand zone right here, we have zone 2 right here, and we have the third lowest zone down here. So let me ask you a question. If you were looking at this chart right here here, right now, which one of these zones would you choose to buy from? Would it be zone 1, 2, or 3? A simple question, I know, but this one simple question is what's going to determine you a profitable trader or a losing trader. Well, right away when looking at this chart, I can instantly write off zone 1. The reason being is because there's an area of imbalance right below this zone. And like I said before, price is naturally going to want to test this imbalance, which means in order to do that, it's going to have to break this zone, which also makes this our inducement zone. So in that case, we can remove the zone entirely. That leaves us with just 2 zones to choose from. Now, you may be thinking it's this one. Considering what I just said, there's an imbalance right below zone number 2, so price is naturally going to want to test this zone. And it's the lowest zone, which probably means it's the strongest. But what if I told you you're wrong? Psych! That's the wrong number. Oh! This is when the inducement strategy actually takes place. So let's take a closer look at this chart. Price has a low right here. We have a higher high right here. We came down, we formed this higher low, then we came back up and made this high. But this high is not an actual high, or not a viable one. The reason being, while trying to break this previous high, it barely just wicked over it, which means this zone right here wasn't strong enough to really break this high. But if we look closely, the zone that actually did end up breaking this high was zone number 2. So with this information in mind, this lower zone may not be as strong as it appears to be, but this zone in the middle is actually the strongest zone. So now we can eliminate zone number 3 and truly focus on the strongest zone, zone number 2. So what we are looking for is price to break this inducement zone right here. After breaking this inducement zone trap, we want to see price head towards our true zone. Once it does, you'll need to head to a lower time frame for confirmation. Right now we're on the 1 hour time frame, so we're going to head to the 15-minute. Now that price is in our zone, we wait for price to play out. We want to see a break of structure showing a structural shift from a downtrend to an uptrend, which is exactly what we got right here. Good. Then we want price to head downwards towards an imbalance on our chart, which there's an imbalance right here, so we wait for price to come to our imbalance, and this is where we enter. First, go back to the higher time frame. Set your stop loss right below this low and set your take profit at the previous high. But before we actually enter into this trade, I have something very important to do. To send this trade to my free newsletter. Yes, before I found this exact trade, I sent it to my newsletter right before I entered, and all the people in this free newsletter got to enter into this trade with me. It also has some insane secret information about the market as well, and the best part is it's absolutely free to join. No cap. Here's the trade, we let price play out, and just like that, we got a winning trade. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.